Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lecture 11. Sorry, I'm not going to be in class today. However, I've recorded 3 videos, and hopefully each one will provide you a lot of great information about advanced JavaScript. I've broken each video into 3 parts just in case I make horrible mistakes. It's not difficult to go back and have to redo it. So if you do have any questions about any one of these, feel free to shoot me an email. If enough questions do show up, maybe I'll create some kind of help page that we can all view the answers on, etc. But we're going to cover 3 topics. One is regular expressions. The next video will be about XML HTTP request, and the third one will be about JSON. And for this one, regular expressions, it's not just something that can only be used in JavaScript. It's something that can be used pretty much in every single language: Java, Android, Perl, PHP, etc. And regular expressions are a really powerful tool for pattern matching. For starters, I'm using a Mac, which is something I'm not used to doing, so forgive me if this is a little crude, but I'm going to do my best. So let's start talking about that and start exploring regular expressions, see what it's all about. Here's 2 really great helpful links if you have questions along the way. This first one is a Mozilla tutorial about regular expressions. All of the Mozilla tutorials are fantastic. They're really great. And the second one is a website called Regexp, and it's a website that will allow you to enter in a regular expression and then enter in some test text, and will allow you to see the matches that pop up. And so it can be really helpful for creating regular expressions and playing around with them. And I'll pull it up later and we can see it. Also, you can use dev tools. They have a great JavaScript console, and you can directly type them in and see results also. So what is a regular expression? It is patterns used to match character combinations in strings. So if you can think about that, whenever you're trying to get input from a user in a form and you want to validate it on the client side, you can use regular expressions. You can also use them on the back end, but we'll be exploring it more on the front end. So maybe we want to make sure a user has entered in a username which matches our criteria, such as lower and uppercase characters and only underscores. We don't allow numbers. Also, we can check for length. It has to be greater than 8 characters, less than 32 characters. And I know you're probably thinking, well, maybe we could do some of this with just the built-in string stuff that languages provide, but believe me, regular expressions are so helpful. Particularly when using regular expressions in JavaScript, we can use the Regexp object or just the string object. I usually use the string object. However, I'm not opposed to the other method. So as I mentioned, some great use cases. Maybe we want to validate telephone numbers, social security numbers, email addresses, and also anything that follows a pattern. So you can think about quite a few things. I've used regular expressions a lot for web crawling. So if you're unfamiliar with what that means, basically we can go and do some data mining on websites and find particular pieces of information. So for example, we go to a web page, we can start finding patterns. Maybe they use certain HTML elements. Maybe there's certain classes that encapsulate some data that we want. Well, we can write a regular expression to target that pattern and extract out the data we want. And so I've used this in the past. I created a website that allowed you to view recipes, but I didn't have any of this recipe data. So what I did is I created a regular expression to parse through other popular recipe websites and extract out that information. So then I also had that information. So it can be helpful for web crawling and a few other things. The difficulty with regular expressions is the syntax. It's not anything that people are naturally familiar with. It's kind of particular in what you need to do, and because of that, it can be difficult to remember if you don't use it frequently. So I'm not going to make you guys remember any of the precise syntax details with regular expressions. I just want you to know that you can have this tool in your tool belt if you ever need to do pattern matching. So it's very helpful, and I foresee you guys using this for your collaborative projects and other applications. So for starters, regular expressions has several special characters, and each one of them has a special meaning. We're going to go through a few of those. This first one is the caret. And what the caret does is it matches the beginning of input. So what exactly does that mean? Well, as you can see here, if I were to create a regular expression, which was caret uppercase A, that would match all uppercase A's that are at the beginning of the input stream. So in this case right here, we have a string that's like an animal named Alex. And since we're only matching the beginning of the input, it's only going to be this very first A. It's not going to match any subsequent uppercase A because we're just looking for the very beginning of the input. If I had a lowercase a right here, it would not match either because we've explicitly asked for the uppercase A. So as you can see right here in this example, it doesn't match an A because this is a lowercase a. So I'm sure you can imagine if we can check the beginning of input, we can definitely check the end of input, and sure enough, we can. And the special character for doing that is the $sign. And what we do is first put in our pattern and then the $sign. And what we're doing right here is creating a regular expression that will check the end of the input for a lowercase t. So in our example down here, we have today I ate a tart. It will match the very last lowercase t because we're looking at the end of the input. So that's the end of the string right here. So in the case down here, tart is here. since it doesn't end in a T, we don't have any matches, so it's going to skip over these first T's. So that's how those are used. Now we have a character that's in regular expressions overused by so many people, and usually when novices first begin, they use this star character and they get unpredictable results. And so use this one with caution. And the reason why people overuse it is because it matches the preceding character 0 or more times. So people try to use this special character to try to match all sorts of filler types of information multiple times. So let's kind of walk through this and we can talk about it a little bit more. I'll show an example. So what we're trying to do is we want to match lowercase a 0 or more times. So in this case right here, I have the input all red, several A's. And because I want to match 0 or more A's, it's going to match every single one of these A's right here. In our second example, we have the word tart, and it's going to match A right here because there's 0 or more A's. However, we're going to come down to this last example, and it's going to be rather confusing to people because we have the word Tom here as our input. And as you can see, there are no A's. However, what I've told you here is it'll match the preceding character 0 or more times. So people are thinking, well, I know I don't see an A here, but we're being told that it should match because we found A 0 or more times. So let's kind of see what that means. And to do this, we're going to pull out, first let's check out that website that I told you about called Regexp, and we can see what it tells us. So up here in the top, we're going to type in what our regular expression is, and it was just A asterisk. And as you can see here, here's some sample text, and it's matching all the A's that we're finding right here. So that's already very helpful. Let's type in Tom right here and see what we get. So I type in Tom, and as you can see here, we're not seeing any highlights. See, if I type in an A right there, we do see the highlight, but without the A, we see nothing. However, this isn't exactly giving us the full story. So what I'd like to do now is open up the developer tools. So I told you previously there are 0 matches with Tom when we have A asterisk. So some people are confused with what that means, so let's just go straight to JavaScript and see what it does. So here we're opening up the dev tools and we're going to the JavaScript command line, and we're going to type in the string Tom. And since JavaScript is a really cool language, we can just type this in, and since we have a string object, start adding string methods. And so here I'm going to show you how you can use regular expressions with JavaScript. And all strings have a special method called match, and we can put in a regular expression. And I'm going to put in this regular expression A star. And if you notice, I'm wrapping A star inside these forward slashes, and these forward slashes are how we denote that we're talking about a regular expression. We don't need to put in quotes or anything like that special. And let's type this in, and what match does is it's going to search the string, which is Tom in this case, for any match for A star. And let's type it in and see what we get. And as you can see here, it's returned an array, which is just an empty string. It has nothing in there. So let's try something different and just put the letter A. We're just going to search for the letter A. And as you can see here, we got null. So here's where the trickiness of the A star comes into. We say we're going to match it 0 or more times. However, you know, in the regular expression pal, we didn't see any highlights, and that's because what we did match was an empty string, which we can't highlight an empty string right here because there are no empty strings right there to highlight. Technically, A star has matched, but it's not any characters in our input string, so we're not going to show that match. So that's just something you're going to have to learn and live with and be careful with. So that is the A asterisk. So other examples of how this can be useful is maybe we have some input and we can use it for variation. So here we have A star M. That means we're going to match A 0 or more times and then have M. And here's where that example that I just showed you kind of comes in full circle, because we have A 0 or more times. Since A is not in Tom, that's going to match, and then we have M, so this is going to work. So the star is useful for matching things that aren't in a string as well. So that's useful in this case right here. Moving forward, we have the plus sign. And the plus sign is similar to the star, except you need it to appear 1 or more times. So if we come back here, you know, if we did A plus M, it would not work in this example because we need to find A at least once. So here's a few examples where we have 1 plus, so we need to find 1 or more 1s in our input. So in this case, for 911, both of these 1s are found. In 912, we have 1 1 found. However, in the case of 8675309, there are not any 1s, so we do not have any matches. So remember, the plus means 1 or more, the star means 0 or more. Now the question mark is also kind of a variant of the previous two special characters, And that means we need to find the preceding character 0 or 1 more times. Anything more than that won't work for finding matches. So in this example, we have L question mark. So what we're going to do is find 0 or 1 L's in the strings. And here we have the word Lily. And what I've done here in this example is I have different colors to highlight different matches. So when you run this through a regular expression, it would return a match of 2 L's. And that's because L question mark has found 0 or more L's once, and it has found 0 or more L's a second time. So that's why these are highlighted in 2 different colors. If you go to Regexp, it's going to do the exact same thing. So Lily, we get this in log. We find 2 different matches of L's. However, in the case of Ron, we do not have 0 or more L's, so you're not going to see any particular highlights here. However, if we go to our dev tools, let's type this in and see what we get. So ron.match, let's L question mark / see what we get. And once again, this is similar to looking for A star and Tom, although there aren't any highlighted matches because none of the characters that were found in this result are in our input. We're not going to see any highlights. However, technically it does match an empty string. So once again, we can kind of use this for absences of characters in addition. So if we had L question mark in, as we have in this example, this regular expression would match Ron. So once again, using the star and the question mark like this, maybe the presence of this character right here isn't super critical, but it is supported. So therefore, we can kind of use the star and the question mark for combinations that may or may not have something that are still valid matches. So there's that. Let's kind of keep trucking here. Next, we have the decimal point, the period, whatever way you'd like to think about it. And this will match any single character except the new line character. So even in regular expressions, you can match new line characters, but the period will match anything but the new line character. And it's the period and the star that a lot of novices overuse in the regular expressions for matching anything multiple occurrences. And people get in a lot of trouble with that. So be careful with the star and be careful with the period in combination. So let's talk about this a little bit more. Here, our regular expression is decimal point in. And what that means is we're going to match anything that precedes an in, excluding the new line character. So here we have an input of nay, an apple is on the tree. And so we're going to look for a pattern that has anything before an in. So in this case, we come to our very first in, but there's nothing that precedes it, so this in is not a match. And we're going to keep on checking, and here we have the word and since A precedes in, and A is not a new line character, we have found a successful match in this input. We're going to keep trucking on, and the only other in we have is with on right here. And on, the first character is an O, so on is a match as well. So as I mentioned right here, nay is not a match because there's nothing that precedes in. So the period, decimal point, whatever we want to think about it, is very helpful for, once again, kind of those combination patterns that work where we're not so rigid, we can allow some flexibility, so the period can be helpful. And here we have the pipe or character, whichever way you'd like to think about it, and the or / pipe character is really helpful for finding one pattern or the other pattern. So a great example of this is red, pipe, blue. And what that means is if our input has the word red in it or the word blue in it, it is a successful match. So here we have hand me that blue crayon, and blue is a match here. And secondly, we have hand me that red crayon, and red is a successful match as well. However, if we say hand me that black crayon, that will not work because black is not red or blue. So pretty helpful right there. So I've showed you a few special characters. In addition with these special characters, I mean, you can just type in literal string characters and JavaScript will also interpret it. So maybe you want to match 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, you could literally type in 1, 2, 3, 4, and if your input had that, it would work. These special characters just allow greater flexibility. Now, here's something else that's special about regular expressions, and that is being able to capture repetitions. So what regular expressions provide to you is this curly brace followed by an in, followed by a closing curly brace. And what it'll do is match what precedes it by this number amount. And in has to be a positive number, and it's going to match exactly that number. So if we look right here, we're going to match the letter A 2 times. So in this case, candy right here, we have 2 A's, so this is a match right here. Now in this second example, we have candy with 3 A's. And because we need to find exactly 2 A's, we are only going to match these first 2 A's right here. This third one does not count. So that might be confusing to some people, so let's open up our DevTools and see exactly what's going to happen here. 3.match, and what we'd like to do is a 2 / So right there, as you can see, it only matches those two things right there. However, what if I add 4 A's? Are we going to have 2 matches? We're going to have still 1 match? What is your guess? My guess is just going to match it once, because it's looking for exactly 2 right here, and it found it right there. So it's not going to continue doing it. However, with the case of just having 1A, we're going to have 0 matches, so it's not going to be a winner. So whenever we're finding repetitions, this is very, very helpful. However, maybe you want to find a range. Maybe you want to find some occurrences that could be between a certain amount of number. Well, regular expressions can add that amount of flexibility. So we can do a range of between n and m positive integers. And all you need to do is, it's similar to the previous one, you just add a comma and then what your end is. And so you can find things that are in between these two. So in this example right here, we're going to tweak it a little bit. So we're going to look for 1 to 3 A's. And so in our previous examples, all are going to work now because we're looking for 1A, bam, we got it. We're looking for up to 3, and we have it right here. And in our case that I showed you a second ago where we had 4 A's, using just A brace 2, it only matched these first 2. However, our regular expression's now changed to say I can match 1 to 3 characters. So what regular expression is going to do in this match is going to match the very first 3. And then the regular expression says, hey, I will match 1 character, and so this is now a second match. In this third case right here with C and DY, we have 0 A's, so that's not a match. So that is for finding kind of a repetition amount of characters. Regular expressions also allow you to match character sets, and that will allow you to match any one of the characters that are enclosed. So rather than using the curly brace, we use square braces in this case, and you just give you a range of characters that you're looking for. And this is useful for alpha characters and numeric characters, upper and lowercase. So what I'm doing right here is creating a regular expression that will check the range of alpha lowercase characters from A through D. So that includes A, B, C, and D. Anything after D is not going to work. So with that, we have our input of the word candy, once again, all in lowercase. And because we're looking for any alpha lowercase character A through D, we have several matches. We have lowercase c, lowercase a, lowercase d. In our second match right here, we have the word brisket. And since only one of those characters is A through D, we just match the B. So this is very helpful. And something that we can also do is maybe you just want the beginning of the alphabet and maybe a middle range of the alphabet. So something you can do is provide several sequences. So let's go with the word brisket. And what we want to do is we want to match the beginning of the alphabet. So I'm going to say A through D, and then I want to match R through T, because I want to match this T right here. So let's see what's going to happen. So I have A, uh-oh, this didn't work. What did I do wrong? So let's back up. Even my regular expression syntax is a little weak. So why didn't that work? Let's try A through B right here. So bam, we got that right there. So using the comma didn't work in that case. And I expected that to work. So I'll have to check out why exactly that didn't work. Because I know when you want to mix lower and uppercase, you can have A through D, comma, uppercase right here. I would think, yeah, that works right there. So I'm not sure why it didn't work in this case right here. Maybe they have to be different sequences of characters. So that kind of worked. Since we didn't have a lowercase b, it matched the r. But when I lower it to b, it doesn't match it. So I will have to take a look at that and get back to you guys why that didn't work. But as you can see here, it's kind of powerful for finding ranges of characters. You can also, as I mentioned, use it for digits. So here we can say 0 through 4. Oh, and that's because I put that right there. And so it matched the word 1. So probably the problem was I encountered before is it's only going to match one of these characters. So if I come here and allow it to match one or more, as you can see here, I get 1, 2, 3, 4. So going back to our previous example, this one right here, if I change it to be plus sign, we should now get the B and the R, which I did right there. So that was my previous problem, is it's only going to match one of those characters. So you need to use one of those special operators to continue matching. So problem solved, haha. So back to this, using the square brace for finding Sequences, very helpful. And here I'm showing it with digits, which we already covered. So that's kind of the quick run through of regular expressions. Hopefully you can kind of start exploring and seeing the power that regular expressions provide. And bringing it in the context of JavaScript, I've showed you how to use the match method with a string. And as we can see here, the method will execute a search for a match in the string, and it will return an array of information or null if we didn't find a match. And you can use this in addition to test. You can also search, and search is convenient because it will give you the index that it finds the very first occurrence. Replace is extremely helpful. If you want to replace some content in an input stream with something else, you can use the regular expression. Another very helpful method is the split, and what that'll do is, given a regular expression, is it will split or tokenize your input string and give you a subarray with all those indices. So these methods are very helpful, and we'll be exploring these a little bit further once we start getting into some form validation. These methods are also very similar to pretty much other languages. They might have a little bit different syntax and flavor, but they're extremely helpful. So moving forward, I've shown you a few examples, but something that's really important to note is in JavaScript, to denote that it is a regular expression, you need this / to wrap your regular expression. It's extremely important, else it's not going to work out very well. So if you want, here's an example I didn't really show, is if you just want to have a variable which encloses your regular expression, you can have a regular expression variable and then just pass it in there. Very helpful. Here's some advanced regular expression flags, and in JavaScript, if you would like to do case and sensitive searches with your regular expressions, all you need to use is this I flag. Also, given a large input with new lines, sometimes you want to do a global search, and so this is very helpful. So how to use this, all you need to do, looking at this example right here, we're searching the input Tom for lowercase t. Obviously, that's not going to work, so we have a result of null. However, if we have our regular expression wrapped in these /, we put the flag at the very end. And so what we're saying right here is we want to search for the uppercase t, but we don't care about case. So in this case, it will match our lowercase Tom. So what I'd like you to do to kind of play around with these regular expressions is write a regular expression that will allow a string that contains the following: lower and uppercase alphabet characters. In addition, it will support underscore characters. And finally, we want to check that the input is between 8 and 32 characters inclusive. So that means it can be 8 characters long and 32 characters long, or anything in between. So I'm going to create a Blackboard quiz, and you guys are going to submit this answer. So I recommend using Regexp or using your dev tools to figure out a regular expression that will work. And obviously you want to test it out, so be sure to play around with it, have some input characters that are too long, too short, and see if they successfully fail your regular expression check. So that concludes this very first section of regular expressions, and there's going to be 2 more videos, as I mentioned. Please follow along. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks. Bye.